A plot twist to the weather pattern on the way as we eye a big storm likely towards the start of March. Welcome in, everybody. Great to see you on this Monday. And it has been a very busy start to 2025 in the weather department and a little bit of a lull right now. But I think that'll change as we go about 10 days from now. Signs of a major storm system that could bring snow, ice, and severe weather outbreak potential to much of the lower 48. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Also want to, of course, say thank you to our channel members. We appreciate you joining, appreciate all you do for us. And if you want to become a channel member, go ahead and hit the join button next to the subscribe button down below. Now, a couple other housekeeping things here at the beginning. One, obviously, background is different. Hopefully you enjoy it. Added some pictures and stuff on the wall, and we'll probably even tweak it a little bit here over the next week or two. Also, obviously, if you missed it, I did not have a video yesterday or Saturday. Actually had some we'll say extracurricular problems with the channel that luckily were resolved by YouTube over the weekend, and very grateful to YouTube to be quick in their response on fixing the issues that I ran into. And we're ready to get going again. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right on into the forecast and get kind of into some of this data. Now, what you see right here kind of looping next to me, this is the latest run of our European computer model, showing that time frame I'm watching right around the 3rd to 6th of March. That's kind of the general time period that I'm going to need to keep an eye on in the models, and then you should also probably keep an eye on if I'm watching it. Generally a sign that it could impact you depending on where you're watching from. But you can see it there. Big storm system tries to develop, brings severe weather potential and winter weather potential, and I think that's going to be how this one unfolds. Now, the question mark still is, where does it happen and exactly how strong is it? And that's what we're going to try to at least give you a little heads up on in today's video, but really won't know all the answers until we get a little bit closer to this storm system, again, which is about 10 days away from now or so. Now, let's take a look at current satellite imagery, because while we do need to talk about that storm, let's go ahead and first start by talking about what's kind of happening out there right now. We've got some areas of cloud cover. We've got some pieces of energy out there. Let's go ahead and point a couple of them out to you. One piece of energy up here into Canada. Here's our trough axis. And with that, big area of low pressure spinning into eastern Canada, bringing some gusty winds, plenty of snow, and some pretty cold air behind it for our folks up north. And then down south, another little piece of energy. You can kind of see this swirl down into the Gulf of, I almost said something. By the way, I'm just going to call it the Gulf. If you want to call it Gulf of America, that's completely fine. If you want to call it the Gulf of Mexico, that's also completely fine. I'm going to stay out of it. I'm just going to call it the Gulf for now, but definitely a swirl down there. And then you can kind of see that cloud cover here on the diverging side of that trough, where we have some showers and storms over Florida and over portions of Georgia this morning. Now, out west, another big swirl you can see just coming into the frame here. That one going to move into the PNW over the next day or two, and then eventually cross the country, bringing active weather from coast to coast, including rainfall and snowfall for others. And we'll talk about that as well here in just a moment. Now, let's go ahead and dive into that radar imagery. Again, like I said, little pieces of energy flying around, and you can kind of see that. No major storm jumping out as, something that's impacting a ton of people, but definitely pockets of active weather. One down here into Florida. That's that Gulf piece of energy I told you about. You can see it, sure enough, firing up some rainfall here from Tampa all the way back down to Fort Myers, eventually from the west side of Florida to the east side throughout the day today. And then up north, you can see that other Canadian piece of energy I was telling you about spinning away up into eastern Canada. We've got rain in portions of Michigan. We've got snow up into Ontario and Quebec, and then everywhere in between, pretty quiet so far on this Monday. Another little piece of energy out here near Montana, and then you can see our bigger storm system off the Pacific Northwest coastline. That's what's going to move ashore here not long from now and start that active weather trend. Now, let's go ahead and time out some of this for you. We're going to start out in the east, and then we're going to move west. So we're going to kind of flip it backwards here, and I'll show you why. But let's kind of just get these two little pieces of energy that we're currently dealing with in the eastern half of the country out of here. Now, this is kind of basically right now. In fact, I'll move it ahead a little bit. This is about right now. We've got some of that rain down south and some of that snow up into Canada. And another thing to note up with this Canadian piece of energy is see how tight these isobars are here? Yeah, that's pretty strong low pressure. That's going to kick up the wind. So expect a pretty windy Monday, and I think even Tuesday here through portions of Michigan, Wisconsin, even eventually into the northeast. This is by this afternoon. You can see raining conditions continue down in Florida, and then this piece of energy clipping the United States, the core of it staying up into Canada, but some snow showers into Maine by this evening and overnight tonight. Same thing for northern New Hampshire. Definitely picking up the winds and increasing snowfall probabilities. I don't think really much falls from the sky out of this along the I-95, especially the further south you go. Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C., pretty quiet weather day. Could get as far south as maybe Boston. Could see some very light precipitation out of it, but I wouldn't really expect much of anything. Now that gets us into overnight tonight. Waking up tomorrow morning, a little shortwave piece of energy creating just enough lift for some rain across portions of the Ohio Valley. Not a big deal. I'm not expecting a washout from that by any means here on your Tuesday afternoon, but does try to make a run for the I-95. Here we go Tuesday later in the afternoon into the evening. Some light rain into New York State, back down towards Pennsylvania, up the I-95, even into the Boston region. Could see some rainfall out of that, and kind of just some squally weather. And that kind of gets on through here by overnight Tuesday. And this is way deep into the night on Tuesday into Wednesday. You can see a piece of energy up here into Minnesota. That's actually the storm off the PNW coastline right now. And then that'll get us kind of later into this week. And we'll track that one next. But before we do, let's follow it back to its origins and take a look back out west and kind of give you the latest details on this storm system, where it's coming from, and exactly where it's heading. So this is our upper level energy map. Let me move it ahead to where we are right about here. So this is overnight tonight into tomorrow. And you can obviously see that piece of energy comes into frame right at the edge here into the Pacific Northwest. Again, this is about we'll say late evening tonight out west, so probably about 10 o'clock or so. You can see the storm system getting going and eventually working ashore during the overnight. And by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon here, picture next to me, this energy gets strung out a little bit, weakened somewhat, but you can still see the overall shape of it there into the northern Rockies, and then eventually getting kicked out into the east. And this is where we left off on the last map. Here's Wednesday morning. We've got that trough over the north central part of the country. That's going to help to bring the storm system back to life a little bit, bring some of that rain, some of that snow. Not a huge storm. I don't think this is going to be a major deal by any means, but definitely worth talking about, worth noting. Again, likely to bring some active weather to some folks, just not one of those major dynamic storms that brings a ton of severe weather and snow. But we'll get there in a second. Don't worry, we're going to have to talk about a storm system like that in just a moment. All right, timing it out further in detail here out west. Here we go. Later this afternoon, already seeing those bands of rain working ashore. And this is a pretty strong storm, folks. I mean, it's about 980 millibars by this afternoon, not far from the coastline. So expect strong coastal winds out of this thing, kind of air off the Pacific, and will really be lashing the beaches here, or the cliffy kind of coastline that you have up there in the PNW. Notice though some snow into the Cascades. Definitely still cold enough for snowfall. It is still February, at least for now. So do expect some high elevation snow out of this, valley rain, coastal wind. That will be the big theme with this storm system, I think, as we move it out ahead into time. And just keeps on keeping on. This is Tuesday morning, seeing some of that Rocky Mountain snow getting even further eastbound here towards Yellowstone, Montana, Idaho. Pretty good little storm system, and then gets out east, and you can see that's where we kind of left off on the East Coast. Now, how much snow are we talking? Not a ton. Again, we've had a pretty good little stretch here of snowfall. This one going to add to the totals, but nothing that you're probably going to write home about. You look out here, though, outside of Seattle near the Cascades, could get even upwards of a foot or two of snow. Not out of the question in those higher elevations. Back towards Yellowstone. In Yellowstone itself, only a couple of inches, but the higher terrains of Idaho could get more than a foot of snow out of this thing. Not much if we zoom out for California, Nevada, Utah, mainly a northern Rockies and Pacific Northwest type of snowfall event. All right. So let's go from there. That gets us back to the full view. So we talked about the near term in the east, talked about the near term out west. Let's go to the medium range now. Here we go, Wednesday afternoon. Here's the storm system as it's coming out of the Pacific and into the northern plains, and then eventually into the Midwest. Notice, not a big deal, but some light snow, light rain here by Wednesday morning. Chicago probably rain, snow probably into the UP of Michigan. Works eastbound, actually ramps up a little bit. What happens is we get this injection of cold air behind it. Again, not an Arctic outbreak or anything. We're still in this lull period at this point. but enough to get a bit of a front going and maybe the chance of some light rain. Can't even rule out a quick storm this is Thursday morning, crossing the eastern half of the country, and we'll keep it going into time here. And again, crosses the eastern seaboard, and we do get a shot of cold air behind it. So this is Thursday afternoon. We've got rain all the way down into the Carolinas associated with the front. We've got cooler air behind it and some lake effect kicking back up into Michigan. Again, though, kind of a seasonable cold front, not a huge outbreak of Arctic air. This is a pretty average late February cold front. Keep it going in time here, and you can see definitely a little piece of energy kind of embedded with it. Now, we do get a shot of colder air, so you can kind of see, again, this is the normal trough, but we've got another enhanced trough behind it. So think of this as, pretty cold air. And then up here, this is more Arctic air up behind this line. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch. Now, most of us just going to get kind of the cold air mass. Some of us, though, are going to get clipped by that Arctic air mass. That's going to make things a lot cooler. In fact, you can even see kind of a little meso-low forming within that, basically a small, super small little area of low pressure there. That could bring some interesting weather. That's shown up in the model here. This would be, back it up, Thursday afternoon, overnight Thursday into Friday. That could definitely bring a quick boost of some snow squalls to the northeast by Thursday and Friday. Watch that. Maybe even making it to the I-95 would not completely shock me with that event. And then another clipper kind of rides along that air mass behind it and tries to bring some snow. This model, the GFS, pretty bullish on snow. This is the 1st of March. This is coming Saturday afternoon. We've got snow through much of Pennsylvania, including Philadelphia, northern Jersey. New York City gets in on the fun by this is, again, Saturday afternoon. Boston gets some snow. Nice little kind of slider there. Not a big nor'easter or anything, but a nice slider. And then things kind of prep for the next storm. So that's kind of what the models are showing in the medium range. Let's talk about the chance of snowfall really quickly. You know, I love ensembles, we're running out of time to use these winter ensembles. So let's kind of cherish the last moments we have of big snow potential really through about the next month before the snow machine begins to taper off and we really start tracking severe weather. So here we go, chance of snow. You can see here's that big eastern Canada storm system right now bringing some snow. Some light snow possible. This would be Tuesday into Wednesday into the interior northeast. Not a huge deal, but then you see that first storm signal. Again, that's the Pacific storm that crosses the country. Here we go by Wednesday into Thursday, bringing some light snow into Ontario, portions of northern Michigan, and then the interior northeast, Adirondacks, up through Vermont, New Hampshire, and then even into Maine. And then comes that more Arctic shot of air by the weekend. Here we go, Sunday. You can see that clipper kind of brings snow chances really to the same areas. It's the interior northeast, it's eastern Canada, it's the northern Great Lakes, the UP of Michigan, the northern mitten there. That kind of works on through, and then that sets the stage for the bigger storm system. And speaking of it, let's go ahead and break it down for you really quickly. These are the latest European ensembles showing that potential. Now, I'll pause it here Sunday afternoon. Obviously, a lot happening on your map, but I want you to really lock in on this piece of energy over California. That's a trough. It's digging down into the western United States at this point. This is Sunday afternoon. This is a classic trough evolution of a big severe weather event or even a big snow event. So what's going to happen, this is our piece of energy, it's going to start to wind up out west and then really get cranking and move through the eastern U.S. and really starting to spin quicker and quicker as it does. And that's going to really enhance winter weather and severe weather potential. So watch it here. There's that piece of energy. Really deepens over the four corners, then ejects, as we say. Basically, it gets kicked out of the Rockies into the plains. And that's normally when surface low pressure or our actual storm at the surface begins to develop. That's right around here. This will be Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. Again, about 10 days from now. But a lot of the models showing it and the ensemble showing it is a sign that it's likely to happen. And then a shot of cold air behind it potentially as we get closer to, we'll say the 7th, 8th, 9th of March, that general time frame. So what could this look like? Well, let's take a look at some model runs. Here's the European. I'll skip it ahead to that time frame. So this is Saturday on the European this week, so about 6 days from now. Here we go. We've got one little shot of cold air in the northeast, and then comes our big storm. Here we go. It develops at the surface. This is by next Tuesday into Wednesday. So remember, all the upper level energy started getting going by about Saturday out west, but it didn't really hit the surface in the east until about Tuesday afternoon. And here it is, strong low pressure down into the Red River Valley. A big storm starts cranking up. Check it out, gets down below 990, gets into the 980s. and just kind of a messy event here by next Wednesday. We've got snow on the backside, classic deformation band, and I would be willing to bet some severe weather potential here by next week with this as well, down south into the warm sector. At this point, again, we're in March. We're getting closer to severe weather season. Normally it starts down south, slowly starts working north. So maybe a Gulf Coast, Dixie Alley type event out of this would not surprise me. Again, we'll watch the trends. What about the GFS? What does it show? Here we go. We already looked at this GFS run here as the Saturday storm kind of gets down south. And then by the time we get to next Monday, Tuesday, here comes our main storm system. Kind of get faked out here. Here's one piece of energy by Monday. That one doesn't really do it, dies off. But then the big one comes by, again, about next Tuesday, Wednesday, further north on the GFS, also even stronger, down closer to 980 millibars and showing big snow, even blizzard potential for the northern plains. It's got, again, likely severe weather potential with it to the south. And what a messy winter storm on the GFS this would be, from the Twin Cities all the way through the Great Lakes into the interior northeast. Just an absolute mess of a storm, and then very cold air moves in behind it. And that gets us further out into time, into March. But both models showing that big storm potential right around next Wednesday. So we'll say about 10 days or so from now, more like probably 8 or 9 days. But that's the time frame we're watching, right around that March 3rd, 4th, 5th time frame. I told you that in the last video. It was a couple days ago. I said that time frame would probably be the one to watch for the next big storm. And I think that's kind of coming to light here. Now, what kind of bad weather is going to be associated with this? Well, the first thing I'm watching is the severe weather potential. These are this is a parameter, a composite parameter, meaning it takes a bunch of different ingredients and the model puts it together, and it shows an output of what is the likelihood of severe weather from our European ensembles. And notice really not much over the next week or so. It's pretty quiet. It's February after all, but then notice a boost in ingredients right around that time frame. Next Tuesday, Wednesday, starts in Texas, works eastbound here into the Mid-South, gets through Dixie Alley, and then even tries to get as far east as the Carolinas by about next Wednesday, Thursday. So we'll watch the possibility. Severe weather is notoriously difficult to forecast this far out, though. So we've kind of just got to watch. Do we get these big storm systems? If so, all right, check that box off. Then as we get closer, is the storm trending further south, further north, stronger, weaker? We'll do that through the coming days. And then as we get even closer, is instability trending up or down? What does the storm mode look like? Does it look like supercells, a squall line? What exactly is going to happen? And then we get to the day of, and it's like, okay, well, did everything we think was going to happen actually happen? So a way to go before we get to the actual kind of final nail in the coffin on the severe weather threat, but I do think there will be one. Now, what about snowfall? European ensembles here showing the potential. Again, here's the weekend system, Clipper kind of thing, Saturday, Sunday, and then here comes the bigger storm system. You know, it's not a huge snow signal. I think what's happening here is the models are really bickering and fighting over where the storm's going to form. So because of that, you kind of just get this messy signal where everyone has a small chance of snow into the northern plains, into the Midwest, northern Great Lakes, and then even into portions of the Northeast. Again, a long way to go on this storm, exactly where it forms, how strong it is, but I think the storm is going to happen. I think the models are locking in on that. There will be a storm. Will it be up north like the GFS shows? Will it be down south like the European shows? That'll be very important in this part of the forecast, which is the snowfall and wintry side of things. Now, final thing we'll talk about today are those temperatures. So here's this afternoon, a nice little warm up for much of the lower 48, and boy, oh boy, do we deserve it. It has been a cold winter, but this is definitely going to feel nice out there today. Through this week, the theme is going to be generally warm up, but notice as I move ahead, here's by the weekend, we get these little shots of cold air into the east still. So if you're in the Northeast, especially up into the Great Lakes, that Michigan area, back down into the Mid-Atlantic and even into the Southeast, you're going to still deal with shots of cooler, more February or March-like air. But generally speaking, it's going to be a lot nicer than it has been. And you can see we get these warm-ups in between. This is another big cool down right around a week from now. You can see in the east. And then we go ahead into time, and I think ahead of the next storm system, next Tuesday, Wednesday, that time frame, a big warm-up out ahead of the storm. And then the storm works on through and likely going to deal with another shot of at least cooler air. You can see some of these blues and kind of more average colors once again working back into these. So a little bit of a roller coaster east of the Mississippi. In the plains, I think pretty solidly warmer than average for most of the time period ahead. And that's kind of what we'll be watching. Alrighty, folks, that's all I've got for you on this. What day of the week is it? It is Monday. Appreciate you tuning in and great to see you. Y'all have a great one. I'll see you all tomorrow.